Most students spend 4 years of high school doing impressive things and then panic when they realize none of it feels connected. They have the grades, they have the activities, and they have the scores, but they don't really have a story. And that's exactly what separates the kids who get in from the kids who don't. Today's guest figured that out early. Samuel is a senior at a public high school in Tennessee who got into Vanderbilt through early decision and was named a Cornelius Vanderbilt Scholar. Full tuition, merit based, and chosen above every other student who got in. No private school, no national title, and just one clear thread running through everything he did and the discipline to never let go of it. That thread is what we're unpacking today. So let's get into
My
it.
name is Samuel Michael. I'm a senior at a large public high school in the Tennessee area. I was recently admitted to Vanderbilt through the early decision and was named a Cornelius Scholar just a few days ago. In my free time, I like to play basketball, and I'm also very involved in my church service. In the future, I hope to pursue kind of the medical track, and yeah, that's kind of the gist of who I am.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Most people who end up at a school like Vanderbilt, they have a moment, a specific thing that happened, right? That shifted their whole approach to the application process. Was there a moment like that for you, or was it more of a slow build for you?
Yeah, for sure. I think that it really started when I was in 8th grade, when I decided I wanted to go to Vanderbilt. So as I said, I early decision Vanderbilt, which means I applied knowing that I wanted to go to Vanderbilt from the beginning. So it was during the 8th grade time when I was still coming into high school that I was like, I really need to take high school seriously. I need to see what I want to do, what college I want to go to. And I would watch a lot of the YouTubers that we all watch, podcasts like your own, that talk about, Vanderbilt's a really great school. Obviously, I'm from Tennessee, so everyone around me is very pro Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's a great school. I later go on to do research in Vanderbilt. So I was very familiar with the area. My mom also was also very familiar there, having worked there. So I was almost aware of Vanderbilt, but it wasn't until before coming into high school that I knew that this was the college I really wanted to go to because of the emphasis on the medicine and also the research side of the university. So that's kind of when I knew.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it has one of the best campuses as well, because I've lived there for 2 weeks. My friends studied
Really?
there. I absolutely loved it. Yeah.
It is.
There's this park right in front of the college. And it's pretty cool.
Yeah, Centennial Park.
Yeah. All right. So the Cornelius Vanderbilt Scholarship is a full tuition merit-based scholarship, right? It's not need-based. It's not random. And they specifically chose you above everyone else who got into our Vanderbilt. So when you found out, what was your first thought? And do you think that you knew during the process that you were building a scholarship-worthy application, or did it surprise you?
So I think my reaction to it was I was jumping up and down and screaming out of happiness. So I think the first thought was, wow, this is such an amazing opportunity. But I think going into the process, I think it's really important for you to know that you're up to that caliber. It's not that I went in and I was like, oh yeah, for sure I'm going to get this scholarship. I'm at that level of application. But I had to know where the bar was and where I kind of fell along that bar. So I knew going in that there was obviously a chance that I could get it, but I don't think I came in with the confidence of oh, for sure this is going to happen. I kind of followed the steps that anyone else would to kind of pursue a scholarship application, focusing on what are my career goals, why Vanderbilt and a scholarship would really take me to the next level beyond just getting admitted to the school regularly. So I knew that those were things I had to hone in on, especially since I ED'd, because a lot of times ED applicants will say your chances of getting in as an ED applicant is lower because you already know you're going to the school. So going in, I had that understanding of there's probably a lower shot of me getting this compared to an RD student. It's a very competitive scholarship from the beginning. So because I knew that, I kind of followed the steps and that helped it.
Yes, that's amazing. And moving on, let's talk about your ECs. So a lot of my viewers are high schoolers who are doing a bunch of activities, but none of them feel connected. They feel very scattered. Looking back at your application, was there a single thread running through everything you did, or did you consciously build it?
Yeah, I think I had the thread laid out from the beginning once I started, and I built on it as I continued. So for me, the thread that kind of lined all of my ACs was the idea of service, whether that be through any intellectual endeavor I did or through all the volunteering I did. Just give you a little context of what my ACs were. So my primary AC was this company me and my friend started, think a Khan Academy IXL, where we attempted to give students opportunities to have access to learning without having to pay themselves. We charged on like a teacher level, and we allowed students to have access to like almost premium education by using like AI and a lot of the recent things that have come out, but focusing on access to everyone. Another one of my biggest ECs was I started a podcast, actually, like the one we're on today. It was a religious
Yeah.
podcast, and we got it because I'm Egyptian. We got it grown, and we kind of had it aired internationally in Egypt, and it grew very far. And it was because I used that thread of service through everything that I think when one of the readers was going through my application, they could write and be like, "Yeah, Samuel was a student that focused on service." And then I harped on it on my essay. So I think that was my biggest thread.
Okay, I think this is one of the most important part of any application, that you have to have like a thread. You have to have depth in whatever you do, and that like they kind of ask for a thread in an application. So how would you suggest a high schooler to pursue that kind of route of building a thread, or if they are not like sure what kind of thread they have, how would you pursue they look?
So I think that obviously the best approach would be to start from freshman year and first evaluate what are my interests, what are my goals, what do I want to do with my life. For me, I knew I wanted to pursue medicine, hoping to help others. So that's kind of how I started thinking about the thread of service. But unfortunately, for a lot of people, that's not the case. You know, they're maybe like a sophomore, they're entering their junior year now, they're kind of starting to think about college applications. So then now they need to find their thread. They can't really build one out anymore. And for those people, I would tell them that there's always ways to link your ECs to whatever message you're trying to say. But it's important that you first find that message within yourself before you start linking. For example, like I told you that I'm very involved in my church service. So that service aspect was very present within that, because obviously I'm helping out with classes, teaching students. But when it came to the business aspect, or the Quest company that I started as another EC, it wasn't as linked. So when I approached the college application process, maybe the company itself on a day-to-day basis was hard to see this as a service. It was a business. It's sometimes hard to see businesses helping others. But when I went about writing my application, and when I got to the point where I was mentioning it throughout my supplemental and Common App essay, I made sure to tie it in through like the ways I described it. Because again, colleges only see your ECs through the lens that you describe it to them. So if you frame it as I'm helping this amount of students better their education in these types of areas, then they'll see it as a service. But if you come at it as, I started this company that has this X in profit and that has this many dollars made, then they're going to see it as that too. So you find your thread through examining yourself, and then you build that thread by how you frame those ECs.
That's amazing advice. And I actually preach the exact same thing. It's like a lot of people have done a lot of stuff, and they've only done that because they had a reason, right? So it's just about like at the end when they're like panicking, oh, I don't have a thread. It's just about sitting down with yourself and finding it inside you. And then you can just basically frame it.
Exactly.
Perfect. And here's something I always want to know. What was the one activity on your application that you think genuinely separated you and got you that Cornelius scholarship as well?
I think it might have been the podcast I started. I think that it's very unique because it tied both my culture and my like leadership, because I led a team of like around 17 volunteers, plus that I also had this like presence where it was aired in Egypt. It had like 500,000 views. So I think that the element of both impact and he's drawing on his Egyptian culture, his background of being a Christian, those two elements kind of played really well in admissions.
Okay, another question a lot of high schoolers also have is just if you're following your passion, and it's usually very hard to build that level of impact if you're just going on your passion. For example, some people want to start a YouTube channel, but it's like, okay, I'll upload 50 videos, but then where will I get it? Like 100 subscribers, 150 subscribers. What do you have to say about that? How do you show impact if let's say the numbers aren't too big?
Yeah, so I think that when you're approaching like displaying your ECs, there's two main approaches. It's the one through the impact and the numbers, which obviously is preferred because colleges can kind of read through the fluff. So they want to see what did you actually do. But I think the other approach that is there, and is kind of the one I took in relation to the research I did. So I said that I did research at Vanderbilt under a professor. And the impact of that, other than the title, is not very great. Like you can't say that like I did this many research labs or this many things, because as a high school student, I really didn't have much of an impact. So the way I framed it was a lot of through my essays and through the ways I personified the experience. So instead of thinking on the macro level of, I had this many dollars or this big number, I thought of it as an experience that I learned something from. So when an admissions reader was going through it in my essay, they'd be like, oh, so that experience taught him that. And then they go through their activities list and they're like, that was the one that taught him something. but I still have this other one that had an impact. So I think if you take either approach with the way you're trying to frame your activities, you could either show it as a very high impact activity, or you could see it as impactful towards you activity. I learned a lot from this. And a lot of times students, they can say, I learned something from this while not having impacted a lot of people with it. But if you're able to say, this taught me something, I grew so much because of this, and I went on to start something else that has an actual impact, that's how you can kind of play it as impactful, but not through the numbers.
That's an amazing answer. I think, yeah, our psychology of college admissions overlaps quite a lot. And that's what I've been preaching to a lot of kids who have these questions as well. But I just wanted to hear your answer for that as well. All right, moving on. Vanderbilt is like pulling from every type of school in America, right? Public schools, private schools, big cities, small cities. Do you think your specific opportunities that you had gave you a better chance at getting into a good college?
I think the short answer is yes. Like, I'm very, very grateful to be in a really like amazing area within the Tennessee region. Like, I went to a large public high school. Like, I didn't go to a private school, but the public high school I went to had access to a lot of these clubs. Like, everyone knows DECA, TSA, all these very like well-known clubs. They had already been established. A lot of the opportunities. And I think probably the most impactful thing that helped me truly throughout the process was my connection to the friends that I built within high school. So I have two of my greatest friends. They went on to go to amazing colleges, and it was because of them that constantly pushing me and telling me about these new opportunities or this new thing you could do that kind of was most impactful towards me, because I had the privilege of having those people around me that were pushing me and continuing to tell me, well, you could do this, or even seeing them succeed. I told myself, well, why can't I put in that same effort? Why can't I also do this? Why can't I pursue my own passions? I think that I was given a lot of resources that helped me succeed, a lot of great opportunities, a lot of great teachers, mentors, and friends that really guided me. But it was mostly those friends aspect that kind of pushed me to take the next level and pushed me to take my high school experience seriously.
I think for sure the environment matters a lot. I remember when I was applying to schools as well, it was like my closest friend group, the three friends we had. We were all like extremely competitive into, getting into a good school. And I think you push each other, and that's like the biggest derivative into getting you into good college for sure. What would you have to say to someone who, let's say, doesn't have enough resources? Because I have a lot of international students as well. They're not going to have that kind of access compared to US schools, right? What would you have to say to them?
So I think that I'd first offer them comfort in the fact that colleges look at you in context. And that's the truth. Like, if they know that you're from, for example, maybe an international student doesn't have access to all these US competitions, they know this going in. So a lot of times people, they go on YouTube and they see these students that are doing all these amazing things, but they don't know that when you're considered within context and almost the people in your region. So, for example, if you go to a school, they'll know what the caliber of student could be at that school. So I'd offer them comfort, and also tell them that while you may not have resources, you need to actively pursue it, even if it's not to the same level as someone within the US. So, for example, I participated in the DECA competition, and I was able to like make it onto like the level of ICDC or international. For someone maybe that's not in the US or that's not able to compete on that type of level, they might not have access to a chapter that teaches them everything. But I think maybe pursuing the fact of maybe let's start a chapter in my local region, or maybe I should reach out to the DEC organization and ask them to see if there is a way I could compete, or finding ways to just maybe start something that seems and looks much better than someone who's just competing within an existing organization. So while maybe, yes, you didn't place on the international level, or you didn't get the amazing awards that you sometimes see, but your small effort or the same amount of effort someone else might have put in with their resources looks equally as beneficial, knowing that you come from that background. And I also like to tell those people that to know that you need to harp on those things within your essays. Because a lot of times we have to explain our ECs and our essays. We're afraid to talk about anything else. We just list out our common application again. But I tell you that the people that read your applications, they want to see you as a person. They want to understand you. So if those are one of the driving factors that impacted your high school experience, then why not speak up about them? Why not explain them? Not as a sob story, but almost as circumstance that impacted how you went about high school and how you became the person you are.
No, makes sense for sure. Yeah, a lot of people also need to understand, yes, very contextual, because millions of people apply to these schools and they're not from US, they're not from magnet schools in California. A lot of them are from like actually India, Pakistan, countries where the resources aren't available. So you have to make the best out of what you've been given, and you'll be judged accordingly. You have to just trust that you'll be judged accordingly, and from then it's good. And like you mentioned, you have to mention it slightly in your essays how it shaped you, but in my opinion, it should be more about personality rather than mentioning ECs or anything, or just retyping all of your application again on the essays.
The worst thing you can do. Writing about your
Yeah.
ECs, restating them, it's the worst.
All right, let's move on to the supplemental essays. So Vanderbilt supplemental essays are known for being very specific, right? They want you to know exactly why Vanderbilt and not just any top school. So how did you approach that? And yeah, just this, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So I think that this year the Vanderbilt supplemental essay was focused on the dare to grow, like their motto, in addition to how has your like identity impacted you. So when I looked at that, I almost thought like it was a very hard question because it's not like a why Vanderbilt, it's not like a why major. Like there's very standard essays that you can almost like piece together from other colleges, but this one was very unique, and then I wanted to see how your identity impacted you and how that impact on you shows how you dare to grow or how you appeal to Vanderbilt. So I think when I approached it, the first thing I did is I looked for that identity piece. And luckily, as I said, I'm Egyptian, so I'm from Egypt. So my identity is something very rooted within me, especially within my culture or my religion more specifically. So I had the piece of knowing who I was in my identity, but then I wanted to almost find a spin-off to what the question was asking. So the question was asking, how do you dare to grow? And what I thought to myself was I could say, oh, I learned this new skill or I grew in this way, but it would almost be very surface level. So I actually spoke about how I started I hosted a festival in my local community where people can come learn about the Egyptian culture and my Coptic religion. So I said that I learned to dare to grow, and I grew through experiencing with others and through allowing others to share their culture. So I almost said that the way I learned to grow myself was through the other people around me. And I remember ending my essay with, like, I dare to grow together. And I think that spin-off you take on some supplemental essays, the unique thinking, it comes with the hours you put in. Like if you sit there and stare at the prompt and you analyze it like fully, you'll be able to come up with those creative answers. I can remember actually I was in Egypt the summer before I applied, and I was like, even with the time zone difference, I'd pull up my phone with notes and I just put down all the college essay ideas I had over the summer. And once I got back, I went ahead and started writing. So I didn't waste a minute of my time because I knew that those great ideas came with the time and effort I put in.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I approach this.
I think that's an amazing tip, to journal all your ideas while you're just traveling or doing something else. I think because a lot of people fill in the travel, I'll do it when it comes, but then by the time you've forgotten everything, for sure. All right. So there's the thing I've noticed where students try to write about what they think admissions officers want to hear instead of what's actually true to them. Did you ever catch yourself doing that while writing your essays? If so, how did you solve it?
Yeah, I think that a lot of times it came with the why specific schools. I found myself, going to the great diversity, academic rigor, prestige, like the common buzzwords I hear all the time. And I think it was when I gave it to a lot of like the mentors and my peers that read over my essay, they would just literally like highlight it and be like, this is bad, redo, rewrite, like delete this word, delete this phrase. So I think it came from the people around me telling me that this is not the writing we want to see. And the way I kind of fixed it was I always played on my personal side for my essays. Like I know a lot of people like to incorporate their ECs, and I did, but I think compared to a lot of the other applicants, even the top tier applicants, I let my ECs almost speak on the activity section side, and I let my personality shine through in my essays themselves. So anything I mentioned started with a story. It had a story within it. And if I wanted to mention an EC, that was maybe the 3 sentences max right at the end. For some people, their EC is what taught them. That makes sense. Like it's for sure a great idea. But for me, I always, even when I'm answering like a why Vanderbilt essay, I started with a story that resonated with me and that I could apply to the answer. So I'd always add the personal aspect. I'd also add the application to my high school experience. But the kind of the approach I took was I'd first answer the question myself. Why do I want to go to Vanderbilt? Because of, let's say my answer was very general, because of the academic rigor. Then I'd think of a story where academic rigor helped me. And then I'd think of that application to an activity I've done. And I think those 3 axes of the answer, the story behind it, and its application to your high school career, those 3 things blended together helped me write an essay that wasn't the surface level ones that you see online.
Amazing. And for the stats, what do you think is like the threshold people should aim for? And do you think they should just keep going on aiming for like higher and higher stats? And what were your stats for Vanderbilt?
Yeah, for sure. So my stats was I had a 35 ACT. I didn't take the SAT. I had a
Mm-hmm.
4.0 unweighted and like a 4.68 weighted GPA. I took
Okay.
13 AP courses, 6 dual enrollment courses. So I took pretty like rigorous like curricula when it came to school. But I think in relation to the stats, I think there definitely is a limit. Like I would say I actually fell into this. So I took the ACT
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of times. And I think that
Mm-hmm.
there was on one of my earlier attempts, I got a 34. And I was like, this is good, but I want to do better. So I took it like 2 or 3 times after that. And then I went down one time and I was like, wow, like I'm really like exhausting myself. And then I went up to a 35 and I was like, 35 isn't enough. I need to keep taking it. So I took it again and I got a 35 again. And that's when I took a step back and I was like, okay, what am I really doing here? Like the time that I'm spending for these extra point really doesn't
Yeah,
make it.
exactly.
But I would say that there is a threshold. Like you don't want to stop not knowing that there are like they consider the stats very greatly. Like for example, like I would say for the ACT, like you want to get like in the top percentile for your ACT.
For sure.
Once you get into that percentile, where you land among 36, 35, 34, whatever, it doesn't really matter.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think a lot of people also fell into the trap of, oh, I got a 1520, I gotta get it to 1570. But I
Yeah.
think getting from 1520 to 1570 is going to be much harder rather than just focusing on your story or your ECs at that point and then
Yeah,
getting that
exactly.
up. All right. If you could go back and change you one thing, not your stats, not your school, just the way you built or told your story, what would it be?
I think it's a difficult question, but I think that the main thing I would change would be my approach freshman year. I think that
Okay.
it's not, it built me into the, like, I would say that I don't regret anything I did now. But I think something that would have helped me a lot would be coming in, being more aware of the college process, like having done the research beforehand. Like, for example, something simple is like, that you put in 10 extracurriculars. So having a running list of the 10 extracurriculars I plan on putting in my college application as a sophomore would have been crazy impactful because it would have saved me so much time come senior year when I'm trying to remember 10 that I did or piece together which one is first, which one is second. And I think it would have constantly kept me aware of what the college application cycle would look like. Because I think the people that choose to wait till later on and kind of figure it out
Mm-hmm.
when you get there, it's really hard for them because now you're drawing on so many things. The last 4 years of your life has to be put together in like a 10-page document that you submit to these schools.
Not to mention all the added pressure.
Exactly. Yeah. So if I would have
Yeah.
had a system where I like a running Google Doc of the 10 activities that I'm currently in and which ones I put on my application, the honors I want to put in, just have it continuously running and change it as I try out new things. It would have helped me so much.
Okay. And last question, could you give me one thing that a high schooler watching this could do this week that would actually move the needle on their application?
I think something that they could go ahead and do this week is go out, go on your phone, look at something
Mm-hmm.
you want to look at someone you want to be like and shoot them an Instagram DM. Find someone who made it into Vanderbilt or who got the Cornelius Scholarship or made it into Harvard or made it into Stanford. Send them a DM on Instagram and ask to go on a call. Right before I got on a call right now, actually, I was speaking to a student who reached out to me on LinkedIn just for asking for advice. And I feel like that being able to speak to him and seeing myself in him helps him now know where his trajectory needs to be to get to that threshold. It's so easy. It's literally takes 10 seconds of your time. Go on LinkedIn, search up whatever you want to do. Let's say you want to get into Stanford. Look up Stanford admitted student. Find the first one, shoot them a DM, and ask to talk. Because it's through these conversations you can see what the bar looks like and help yourself get there.
Thank you so much for your time. I think it'll be immensely helpful for anyone watching, and good luck on your journey.
Thank you so much.